Starlight all the night, work again, no, not for me. That's not my idea at all. It doesn't suit me, it's such a bore. Dancing is what I prefer, but dancing, I'm sure it's not a crime. We'll sing us a song to keep us in time. One that our grandmother used to sing us, dancing and dancing until the singing. Brother, dance a step or two. Both my hands I offer you. Right foot first, left foot then, round about and back again. I would dance but don't know how, when to turn or when to bow. Show me what I want to do, so that I may dance like you. With your foot you tap, tap, tap. With your hands you clap, clap, clap. Right foot first, left foot then, round about and back again. With your foot you tap, tap, tap. With your hand you clap, clap, clap. Right foot first, left foot then, round and back again. That was very good indeed, and I'm sure you will succeed. Try again and you will see, hands so smooth will dance like me. With your hand you nick, nick, nick. With your fingers you click, click, click. Right foot first, left foot then, round about and back again. With your head you nick, nick, nick. With your fingers you click, click, click. Right foot first, left foot then, round and back again. Here's a different step to do. Can you do it with me too? Offer me your arm for dancing. I'll accept. Now let's start dancing. Love to have my fling. In fact, I do it every day. Just play and dance and sing. In fact, I do it every day. Play and dance and sing. I like to do it every day. I love to have my fling. I'll sing alright to keep in time while I dance with you. And if the shoes are all in holes, why bother, I salute.
Hi all, and welcome to Opera Orlando's Representation Matters series and another Black Artists, Black Stories episode. I am your host, Chevalier Lovett, and I proudly serve as a board member for Opera Orlando. In December, I had a great conversation with Marcia Hope Goodwin, Chief Service Officer and Director of the Office of Community Affairs for the City of Orlando, about the importance of the arts within the community, the significance of representation and diversity within the arts, and her love and hopes for the City of Orlando. For today's episode, we welcome an up-and-coming soprano and one of our 2020-2021 seasoned studio artists, Kyaunnee Richardson. A graduate of Florida State University, Kyaunnee made her professional debut in 2016 as Papagena in The Magic Flute with Festival of the Arts, Boca, and has since performed with Orchestra Miami, Opera Fusion, the South Florida Symphony, the Civic Chorale of Greater Miami, and the Alhambra Orchestra. Kyaunnee placed third in the New York Lyric Opera Theater and Opera Ebony's Benjamin Matthews vocal competition and won the Audience Favorite Award in the Harlem Opera Theater competition. She was a top 4 finalist in Orchestra Noir's International Medallion Competition and received the Encouragement Award from the Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions. Our audiences most recently saw Kyaunnee in her main stage debut as Adele in Die Fledermaus, hailed by Matt Palm as especially memorable with a beautifully playful coloratura and a winning way with a snarky aside.
My dear Marquis, it seems to me you should display more tact. Where a lady goes, what a lady shows is how she proves the fact. My taste is too fine and too chic. My waist has a line too unique. My talk is too dramatic. My vocabulary is so dramatic. What shame made you know I have so much to show? What shame made you know you have so much to show? Instead of putting on such airs, why don't you mind your own affairs? It's too funny. Please excuse me. I can't help it. You amuse me. It's too funny. Please excuse me. Young as you can be, Marquis. Just look at me, and you will see there's more than meets the eye. Where a lady's been, where a lady's seen, are proofs that never lie. Could I be at home in this room? Oh, if I were at home with a broom. Oh, the way I lift an eyebrow is typically highbrow. What shame made you know I have so much to show? What shame made you know I have so much to show? You might as well admit, Marquis, you owe me an apology. It's funny. Please excuse me. I can't help it. You amuse me. It's funny. Excuse me.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Kyaunnee. As a young artist and building your career, how did you end up in the world of opera? Where did your love of classical music come from?
This is an interesting story. I didn't come the conventional way like everyone else or every other person has. I would say that I really began just singing at the age of 2. My mom put, like, if anybody remembers what a cassette player was and a cassette tape, she would put that at the head of my bed, and I would listen to music from like classic Disney to like Whitney Houston, and during Christmas time there would be like Handel's Messiah and the Nutcracker in there. But what really captured my attention for opera actually was a musical. So Phantom of the Opera is what played that role for me. Yeah, I know a lot of people are saying like it's not opera. I know this. But when I read the book, so this is like back when I was like 14, 15 years old. So when I read the book, I was just so fascinated with this art form. And I'm like, what is this? And so I decided to do some research, and it actually led me to singers like Renee Fleming, Luciano Pavarotti, even Marian Anderson, Leontine Price. And it was at that time when we had dial-up, and that was like a struggle. I would have to sit there and I would not listen, but I wait for the video to load. Like, it takes the whole day. And then I would finally be able to listen to these singers. And and then that's when I told myself, this is what I want to do. I want to do this because there's nobody else in my family that I knew at the time that actually could sing this kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I'm not going to throw any type of shade about that Phantom comment, but that's okay. Like, just as long as there was something that got you into the world of opera, that's great. And we are, so I guess I am grateful for Phantom of the Opera because now I get to listen to your beautiful voice. We had the opportunity to do a coaching together, and it was absolutely exciting and phenomenal for me. We chatted about some folks that we had as common colleagues, folks that we've performed with before, and folks who have been mentors to us. Were there any particular mentors to you, though, that stood out?
Wow. The mentors that stood out to me would be those who are really, really active in the opera world in general. Morris Robinson, Larry Brown-Lee, Cole Easton, and the list goes on. I always say that my voice teacher, Birgit Fioravante, has always been a mentor for me. And I never did get a chance to really work with Willie Waters, but I did meet him once, and that was like on the fly. But they really have been very helpful. Like, if I had any questions or something bothered me, or if it had to do with auditions or whatnot, I can just send them a message and they're very open. And even more so now with the pandemic, since everybody's now online, there's more access to them. So you're able to really ask those questions, and their wisdom, knowledge of the career and of their own experience is so helpful.
So we're going to talk about you being a young artist with Opera Orlando later in this conversation between you and I. However, I do want to chat about, do you think there is a good template for young Black singers in terms of building a career in opera?
I think now, because we have more access to a lot of these Black singers who have made it in the career, I would say when I first started, it was, I tried to glean a lot from those who were way before me, like say the Marian Anderson and the Leontine Price, and tried to see how they did it. And of course, everybody's journey is different. And I mean, I couldn't go on Facebook and say, hey, Leontine, I have a question for you, which would be great, but no. But instead, like I mentioned before, we have like Morris Robinson, Nicole Houston, we have Lauren Michelle, all of these great singers who have sung all around the world. And yeah, some of them have had their conventional way of getting into the career. Others had the unconventional way of doing it. So it's not impossible to have this career, actually see somebody on stage that looks just like you. And on top of that, to have that access to them so you can ask them all of these questions. I really believe it's much better now than it was back in the past.
So what has your journey been? Take us through the last few years of getting to this spot.
Wow. So I may have to go a little bit further than that. So, I mean, going from like high school and coming into college, I went to the New World School of the Arts, and it was a great school for me to actually get kind of a foundation of just music in general and just learning repertoire, anything I can get my hands on. I was that person. I asked a lot of questions. I was the banging on your door saying, hey, by the way, what do I do with this piece? And they're just like, oh, here she comes again. But I always wanted I wanted to learn. I was hungry for this because I wanted to be better. And my mother and my father, they challenged me. They're just like, when you take a step forward, always take it further and further and further. Do not go backwards. So I would always have that in my mind. And I was like, okay, so I learned that. I moved on. And sometimes there were pieces that I had where I didn't really do very well. And so if when I would get a little bit older, I was like, let me come back to the piece and see what I did wrong and see if I can really do better than it was when I first started it. I mean, it just came with age and experience. And when I got into grad school, that level of challenge really amped it up. So I didn't really have that one-on-one that I had when I was in the conservatory. I was in a sea of human beings that was like, okay, go into a voice lesson next and next and next. And I was pretty much on my own practicing and trying to figure this all out. By the time I got out, I did not get into a young artist program. I was fighting to get into a young artist program, but I didn't get in. And I told myself, I just can't sit on my hands and do absolutely nothing. I've got to keep going forward. I got to keep performing somehow. So my buddy, Justin Landers from FSU, came on down to South Florida, and we decided to collaborate with one another. So my home church at the time, we put a concert on. And then I started to find little opportunities around my community. And that just shows that you can be proactive in this career, even though, like I said, some people had that conventional way of going in, like you go to the tradition, you go into a young artist program, and then you go to the next program. And then if you win a competition, that might get you over here and there. That wasn't the case for me. So I had to really think outside the box. And when I was able to get those opportunities with orchestras, and I'm talking about local orchestras, and then do the auditions in New York and whatnot, I started to really experiment with what else can I do. And then that's when I found voice teacher Birgit Fioravante and opera fusion, which really gave me more of a platform to try out new things and just play around a bit. And by the time, when COVID hit, yikes, yeah, when COVID hit, I think of course, everything just stopped. But again, my brain was like, there is a way to continue to perform at a safe distance and not go backwards. And thankfully, Opera Fusion was, again, that platform before I got to Opera Orlando to try out, again, another medium, which was social media and performing virtually online. And on top of that, everybody, like I said, was getting online. And I began asking questions and then trying to figure out what people wanted. There's that whole, go the commercial route a little bit without going too far, and trying to really uplift people at this time.
So Kyaunnee, let's talk about COVID. Actually, you said it, you mentioned it. How has COVID affected you? I've got to say, I've been following a little bit of your journey, and you seem to be keeping yourself fairly busy, very social distance busy, but you seem to be keeping yourself busy. But talk to us about COVID and how that's been for you.
COVID has been a challenge for everybody. We want to go back in the theaters, but like I said, if you think outside the box, there are really cool ways that you can continue to perform. And one of those was we did an outdoor concert at the church, and I was like, oh, you can do this. But what I really loved was being able to get on my phone and do like a live little concert, or just record something and put it on YouTube. And one of my favorite things was actually doing a cadenza competition for Andrew Lloyd Webber, which was fun. And he actually heard me, so that was interesting. But COVID actually forced a lot of us to really take creative liberties to keep the art alive, and that's what we really need during this time. So, you can create, and that's how it's all supposed to be.
It's so interesting how we met. We met in the time of COVID, and how we did our coachings. I thought that was very, very neat, where I felt that you were literally on the other side of the church, and I was when we were doing it in Broadway United. But it was good. It was actually, there was movement that we were able to do, and we still made some wonderful music together. So there is flexibility in the time of COVID, and I applaud Opera Orlando, and I applaud artists like you who have figured out a way to make it work in this time. I do want to speak about Opera Orlando a little bit. I might be a little biased, and that is okay, but Opera Orlando happens to be my most favorite opera company in the world. You are a studio artist with the company, and we would love to know more about what it means to be a studio artist. How has that experience been for you at Opera Orlando? And also, what are you looking forward to the most with Opera Orlando this season?
So being a studio artist with Opera Orlando, what I've experienced is that we get to sing the roles that we are going to sing later on in our careers. And I've been so thankful to be able, first of all, to be able to sing Adele and Die Fledermaus.
Brava! And we got, I mean, look at the reviews in the paper. Fantastic.
That was so much fun. I mean, when I came back here, I was just like, I don't know if I'm ready to leave Adele yet, but we have to go on to the next thing. So, and this is also another fun role. It's beautiful music, and we get to do the coachings, and we get to be able to play a lot. And what I'm really looking forward to with this company as a studio artist is actually creating the role of Calpurnia in The Secret River. So a newly commissioned opera. I've really never done this before. So this is something completely new to be able to create. I mean, well, I have created from nothing, but like to be able to create a role that has never been done before, or that is exciting. It's like playing Play-Doh and you're just like creating something and then you get to do it all over again. Yeah.
You were fantastic as Adele, and there's a little rumor out there that Opera Orlando was the first company since the time of COVID to put on a main stage production. So you created history in the time of COVID, and that's actually pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
What's coming up for us as Black artists is Black History Month, right? Mm-hmm. February is a really exciting time to celebrate the culture of what it means to be Black, and in particular, what it means to be a Black artist. You were a returning featured soloist for Hued Songs concert celebrating Black Florida. Can you speak a little bit about that and the importance of the events like this and what it meant to you to be a part of it?
Well, Hued Songs is actually run by a very good friend of mine, Kyaunnee Richardson, who he and I actually went to school together. And when I first heard about this, I had no clue what this was until he talked about it. And I was like, this is really interesting that you are embracing Black culture and bringing it to the audience in South Florida. But what I really want to touch on, I have to go further back in my memory, is that when I first was dealing with Black history at my school. Now, I should let everybody know that I went to a Christian school. It was predominantly white with a mixture of Black and Latinos and other minorities. And Black history, I don't believe was celebrated as extensively as you would have found in other schools. But there was one moment in my time there. I think I was in the first grade, if I remember correctly. And we had a woman by the name of Jody Van Duzer who actually put on a Black history program. And you're talking about, we celebrated everything from Rosa Parks to Whitney Houston, who was big at the time. And I mean, my little crazy self had to sing The Greatest Love of All and Count on Me. So yeah.
Right.
it was at that time, I think it was my mom, Van Duzer, and I think Mrs. Smith at the time, who said, it is very important that we continue to tell stories so we do not forget. And we know where we came from, whose shoulders we stand on, so we can build a better future. That stuck with me for forever. And anytime anything has to do with Black history, especially in South Florida, and I'm so glad that Kenny is doing this, to be able to show people where the African culture, it came from, how it influenced a lot of what's happening in our culture now, and to have a deeper appreciation for it is fantastic. And I'm just so happy to have been a part of it and to be able to share part of my heritage with everyone.
That is so beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. I particularly, as an artist, anytime I do a recital, it is important for me to put a Negro spiritual or 7 on it because it is important to give back and honor the history that has happened and able to share that with others. I am blessed to be able to actually, for MLK Day that's coming up, I was asked to sing the Negro National Anthem in front of the county's first diverse Black mayor and in a city that has embraced us as Black artists. So it's going to be really, really neat. And I thank you for sharing your experience and what history has meant to you. Let's move to something a little bit more different as well. So we are in a political climate, well, actually in the current political climate around representation and diversity, not only in the arts, but across society as a whole. What are you most excited about in regards to where opera is headed, and what work do you feel is still needed?
This political climate has really shaken up this world. I mean, it's always been there, but it really just rattled us a lot. But I'm so glad that people are now really realizing, like, hey, we really got to deal with this. And especially in the opera world and the fine arts in just general. And so now I'm going to go with the experience that I had talking about auditions. Since we'll go back to Phantoms, since that's like my pinpoint. I actually auditioned for the show back in 2016. I went to one of those open calls. Funny story, I didn't believe it was actually happening because I'm in my bed and my friend was like, get up, Phantom is actually having auditions, you need to go. I'm like, yeah, right. And then I turn over and I look again and I'm like, she's not joking. So I go downstairs, I was at a host house and I'm like, apparently Phantom's having an audition today. And she's like, go, like, forget about the master classes today, go, just go. Why are you even standing here? Go. Yeah. So I got myself up, got pretty and got my resume headshot and I rushed on down. I went to the Pearl Studios. And the first thing I noticed was that I was the only Black person in the room. Now, that being said, that tends to happen in practically in every audition I've actually been to, unless there is an audition for Poor Game Best in Showboat.
Hello.
So there have been some cases where there were a lot more of us in the room if it wasn't those two shows, but for the majority of the auditions I've been to, I haven't seen a lot of us. But when it came down to certain competitions, there was a lot of us. But as a whole, not really, unless I missed a day or something like that. But anyways, I digress. It just dawned on me at that time, and I just was like, is this really happening? Am I really the only one? Are we not really being encouraged to go and audition to these places? What's going on? But at the same time, I said, you know what? If I'm the first, I'm the first. Let's just move forward and I can go and pursue those dreams. Because when I was in theater, I'm not in theater, when I would go to the theater with my parents, I didn't see color on stage. I just saw a story being performed. So when I would come away, I'd be like, yeah, I can tell that story. I can do that. I can, do all of that stuff that they're doing. It's not a problem. But it became a problem when somebody was telling me to look at color. And we have to understand that the arts does not belong to one race. It belongs to everybody. And we should be able to celebrate everybody from race, creed, religion, doesn't matter. That's how collective is supposed to be. And I'm so optimistic that opera is starting to move in that direction, that people are able to get up and voice their opinions. Like I said, going back to having Morris Robinson, Larry Brownlee, and I loved how during this time of COVID, how I think LA Opera was the one that did this, where there was like a panel of Black singers, Janae, Russell, Morris, Larry, and a few other people. They shared their experience with them. And the fact that you have people now who are listening to say, what can we do to do better? Well, yeah, let's move forward. Let's do better. Let's hear what they have to say so we can build a better future.
I love that. I love that you shared that as well, particularly around your story about the auditions that you did. Opera is, or the arts in general, you're right. It's not about race. It's about sharing a story, a collective experience, bringing folks into that experience as well. However, what would it mean to a young Black girl who would see their first Black Christine on stage? How would that change the narrative?
That would make people, I'll put it this way. When I first saw the Black Cinderella, which was Brandy, that made me really believe that I can do it. It's just that sense of representation of like saying, yeah, that story belongs to me too, because I can tell that story. So for anybody to see the first Black Christine, they're like, well, okay, I can tell that story too because I can relate to that person. But you also want to suspend that belief of like, again, it still belongs to everybody. It belongs to everyone across the board. As long as you are telling that story and you're being truthful to it, I mean, anybody can relate to it. So, I mean, that's what I meant when
I love that. I had and it reminded me of something. I had the pleasure of doing a double interview with Howard Watkins, who was our assistant conductor for the Fledermaus, and then Dr. Jeffrey Redding, who was the chorus master for Fledermaus. And in that interview, both of them almost immediately together collectively said, representation is absolutely important. However, I'm a conductor that happens to be Black. I am a pianist that happens to be Black. I am a singer that happens to be Black. And it's important for others who look like me and have the talent that I have as well to be represented in that way. So I really pull on your energy around that answer. Thank you for that. I want to talk about any current singers. You've said this, you've named a few, you've named many that actually, as you said their names, my heartstrings were pulling a little bit. But are there any current singers who you really admire and respect in terms of how they are handling their careers while also being advocates for representation?
I really respect Morris Robinson. I respect Larry Brownlee. I mean, I met Larry.
Take a pause and just like give both those, Morris, Larry. I know they're going to be watching this.
Russell Thomas is another one who I greatly respect. I met Russell a couple times, and he's another one I can reach out to, and if I had any questions, and he was very honest to like give me his honest response. I'm trying to say, Angel Blue is another one. She's a beautiful singer. I actually, what was it? I saw her as the first, like, I think she was the first Black Mimi. I could be wrong, but I saw her and Russell at the Met doing a bohem together, and I was blown away by the talent. I was like, what is happening? And she's so kind and she's so gracious. And if I had, again, like I said, if I had any questions, she was very open to say, yes, keep doing this, keep doing that, keep moving forward. It is not impossible. It is possible. The encouragement, uplifting spirit that a lot of these wonderful artists have is just, I can't fathom it. It's incredible. And I greatly respect these artists, and it just makes me want to be even better to go forward and say, well, what can I do to reach out to the people behind who are also being inspired, you know? So those are some of the singers I greatly respect and admire a lot, and I aspire to be.
I love that you said that, and what a great homage to them to get that from you as well. It's no easy burden to carry for that. I also want to give a very special, within that same group, Karen Slack and LaTanya Moore, right? Like these artists who not only give of their talent, they give of their experience, and yet they are at the forefront of representing us as Black artists as well.
And they're real about it. They do not sugarcoat this career. It's unfortunately and this happened to me when I was growing up. I really saw the world of opera in the glamorous sense, the Hollywood version, the silver screen version, not realizing that there was the nitty gritty behind it as well. On top of that, being a Black singer.
Hello.
You have to take those rosy glasses off and see the reality of it all. I mean, there is glamour, if you will, but maybe not as much, but it's there. You have to understand it is hard work. It is patience. It is, there's more words that's escaping my mind, but it's really, bottom line, is a lot of hard work. And I really appreciate people like LaTanya Moore and Karen Slacks and Larry Brownlee who tell us, like, this didn't happen overnight. You got to work. You really got to work. And not being afraid to tell us the realities of racism and all of these other ugly things that some of us were like, there's no way, we're living in this kind of, time. It's 2020 or 2018 or 2019, whatever year it was. But yet and still, it's still there, and you have to know how to deal with it. So I greatly appreciate that from them.
You just gave me goosebumps. that was just like those artists that you named that really step up to representation. That was from the heart. And so I really appreciate that. So I do have to ask this question. And so we talked about your journey. We talked about your career. We talked about what inspired you. And we also got to celebrate you being a brilliant young artist and playing this beautiful Adele in Deflator Mouse. But why does representation matter to you?
It matters. It goes back to what I was saying before. You have to know whose shoulders you stand on. And you have to ask those people who have gone before you to ask for those advice and those wisdom, so you know yourself how to navigate forward on this path this path is set on for you. I've also said that everybody's path is not the same. People have gone the conventional way, others have gone the unconventional way, but you have to find out what your path is and move forward in truth and in confidence, with the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding of those who went before you, and also being aware that the soldiers that who you're standing on, you have that respect and that dignity and that pride to move forward in confidence. And in order to have those people who look like you in this business, there is a sense of sympathy and understanding because they know who you are as a person. It's not like somebody who is of a different race to say, oh, I know what you're talking about. And you're like, actually, you don't really know what I'm talking about. You don't understand. To have somebody that looks like you, that has probably gone through the same experience as you, or, has gone through the same experience as you, can give you that advice and give you that knowledge and give you that wisdom and just have that connection. And I think that that's one of the reasons why representation matters to me.
Let's just take a second, because you can't do that to me. You can't just give this brilliant, beautiful, and authentic answer and expect me to be able to go on after that. I need a second to process. Kyaunnee, I want to thank you so much for your artistry. I want to thank you for your existence. And I want to thank you for what you have brought to Central Florida, to Opera Orlando, with your experiences and your stories. I am definitely now one of your biggest fans. I hope that you see that, and I am here to be a part of this journey with you. Thank you for being here with Representation Matters.
Thank you so much for having me.
Big thanks to Kyaunnee Richardson for sharing her story and journey with us today. Make sure not to miss her in Hansel and Gretel on January 29th through the 31st in the Pew Theater at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. Thanks for being here with us today for Black Artists, Black Stories. This is Chevalier Lovett signing off. Save the date for our next Representation Matters episode on February 28th, where we talk with the production team from Opera Orlando's original production of Carmen. You can find out more information by liking Opera Orlando's Facebook page for the series schedule and updates, and subscribing to Opera Orlando's YouTube channel for all archived episodes of the series and much more. Stay safe and keep singing.
I am Kyaunnee Richardson, a Black artist.